Robo-calls, attack ads on Bob Rae. What is really going on in Ottawa? Well, he was the best and most honest anchor on Canadian TV. Now he's the best and most honest senator in Ottawa. Mike Duffy, how wonderful to see you.
Michael, great to be with you on your wonderful broadcast, which is must-watch viewing.
Thank you, sir.
For anyone who cares about Canadian politics and about public policy, because you cover such a broad spectrum.
We are truly wonderful. I agree, absolutely. Let's begin and get it out of the way as quickly as we can. That's robocalls, because I used the phrase tip of the ice cube. I don't think there's anything to this story. Is it still running in Ottawa?
Well, people are trying to pump air into it, but, I mean, it's what we call astroturf, fake grassroots. I mean, there seems to have been a problem in Guelph. Elections Canada's on it. They're doing hard work, and the Conservative Party is cooperating in every way. But beyond that, the rest of it seems to have been largely generated by groups like Lead On, who went on the internet and social media to call on their supporters, mostly New Democrats, I think, to get on the bandwagon and demand, well, everything basically coming down to a brand new election in most of the ridings that they're talking about, which, of course, is totally crazy and over the top.
Of course. And if they wanted a by-election in Guelph where the Liberals won by 6,000, I suppose they can. Let's talk about...
This is the thing. I mean, you know, we're accused of burning down our own house. I mean, it doesn't even make sense.
No, it really doesn't. Now, of course, the Tory candidate in Guelph, Marty Burke, he's a good guy, but he's an Air Canada pilot. So if I may ask you, there is a rumour going round. I was actually in Vancouver on Saturday morning, and my flight was cancelled. But there's a rumour that pilots deliberately made a lot of evening flights in Calgary delayed or cancelled because they knew that a lot of Tory MPs were coming back from Calgary to Ottawa. Have you heard that rumour?
Well, the only problem with that is that the House isn't sitting this week, so most of the traffic really was last Thursday night and Friday from the Capitol out to the ridings. But beneath the radar, and the mainstream media have not been reporting this, is that we've been having flight delays, usually by, quotes, mechanical problems, for over a month now. And, you know, the flight to PEI was regularly delayed and so on. And no one, I said, is it weather? And the person at the counter gave me a wink and said, well, not really. And then when you sniff around a little more, the old senator is still a reporter at heart, you discover that it was some kind of work action by the mechanics who were unhappy. So this is going on. Michael, if I could just digress for a second. We had in the Senate last week, Committee of the Whole, a delegation for all of the Air Canada unions. It gives the government, it gives me, no one has a greater appreciation of Air Canada, and it gets lots of complaints, but it deserves also lots of compliments, than members of Parliament, because we fly every week back to our ridings. And we have heard over the years the stories of how Air Canada was carved up and all the profitable parts sold off to friends of the previous management and so on. And it's a mess. So it gives us no joy to legislate back to work legislation. The fear is, if you don't, the current ownership may force it into bankruptcy, and then you've got an airline with all of these people out of work, the retirees who are depending on their pensions, thousands and thousands of them, they're out of their pensions. So this is a Band-Aid operation we're doing here to try and nurse the airline back to health so we can get in a position so that it can once again become the proud red-tailed bird that we're so proud of. Okay,
speaking of red tails, Bob Rae, who's, I suppose, sort of leader of the Liberal Party, these attack ads that the Tories are indulging in, are they going to work?
Attack ads? We are advertising the same way the other parties are advertising. There's a huge billboard campaign underway in Toronto now for Bob Rae, Liberal leader, not interim Liberal leader, but Liberal leader. I must have been asleep when they had that convention to make him the actual leader. But anyway, and he's going around saying he's proud of his record as the ND Premier of Ontario. And that's what these ads do, is they say, don't forget, you know, that charming guy that you see today actually had his hands on the driver's wheel for quite a while in Ontario, and the result was not very pretty. And so that's what these ads do, as the Liberals are advertising, and as the New Democrats are getting all kinds of free advertising with their leadership race coming up.
Well, let's talk about that, because Mr. Mulcair, Mr. Angry, as I think he should be known, He may well win, and you know better than I do, he's very easily provoked, and he's holding it during this election. He's being very careful to appear someone who can control his temper and his emotions. I would guarantee in the House, he will have a fit if you start challenging him in the House.
Well, but he's sort of like me, right? I have to control myself when I'm on TV with you because you're so provocative and nasty. I think the big thing with Thomas Mulcair, yes, he has a fiery temper, but what the dippers won't tell you in public that they do tell you in private is they hate liberals. And Tom Mulcair was a liberal. He was a liberal in Quebec. And so that's what it's all about. Years ago, I happened in my single days to date a woman who worked in Ed Broadbent's office. And I said, well, you guys, you know, are liberals in a hurry, whatever. And she erupted, and she said, you have to understand, any one of us in the NDP could have joined the Liberals long ago. We hate the Liberals. They're unprincipled. At least the Tories have some principles. We believe, as dippers, we have principles. And so I think at the root of all of this is an animus on the part of the grassroots towards the Liberal Party and Thomas Mulcair because of the Liberals' history of totally unprincipled activity, going back through their history. You don't have to just go back 30 or 40 years to wage and price controls and 18 cents a gallon and on and on and on. We're going to kill free trade. We're going to end the GST. The list of liberal broken promises is as long as your arm. And the dippers remember that, especially that the Liberals stole ideas like Medicare and said, first of all, no, we're not going to do it, and then wrapped themselves in it, did it, and now they claim to have invented Medicare. So the animosity there is deep and strong. And I must say there's also some of that in parts of the Liberal Party against Bob Rae, because he was a dipper for so long.
Well, so you'll have the NDP led by a former Liberal, the Liberals led by a former New Democrat, and some would argue, Senator, the Tories led by a former Conservative.
Oh, well, this is the old canard, right, that Stephen Harper isn't right-wing enough. I think what Canadians want is not ideology, but management, Michael. And what has Stephen Harper shown? That he could move to stimulate the economy at a time when we need it. Now, as we're coming out, he's going to have a phased economic plan that will not push us back into recession, but will let us get out in a way that's manageable and set us up for the future. He's going to cut away a lot of the underbrush that's grown up in government programs and departments around the national capital and around the country to make us leaner and more productive and more responsive, because we're going to have, instead of 9 people in the workforce supporting every retiree, in about 20 years it'll be 1 for 1. So your kids and my kids are going to have to work long and hard and pay a ton of taxes if they're going to keep all of us baby boomer retirees in the manner to which we're accustomed.
Yeah, you don't know my kids. We've got to go, but listen.
So the Prime Minister is trying to build for the future.
All right.
If you want management, you want Stephen Harper.
You've become a politician, but a good one. It's always a pleasure to see you, my friend. You take care of yourself.
All the best, Michael.